What is the purpose of gun control in the United States, and will it actually reduce violent crime? Let's take a closer look at recent history. John Howard, who served as Prime Minister of Australia from 1996 to 2007, imposed sweeping gun control legislation in the late 1990s. The first legislation passed in 1996 in response to a massacre in Tasmania that left over 35 people dead. 26 people comparatively died at Sandy Hook. The law specifically banned semi-automatic and automatic rifles and shotguns. It also instituted a mandatory buyback program for newly banned weapons. So what happened? And did violent crime actually decline? In total, gun owners in Australia were forced to surrender over 640,000 personal firearms to be destroyed by the Australian government, a program costing Australian taxpayers more than $500 million. These were the first-year results. Australia-wide, violent homicides increased 3.2%. Violent assaults increased 8.6%. Armed robberies increased 44%. Yes, 44%. These are just a few examples. Does this look like a decrease in violent crime to you? Obama continues to use the argument that gun violence and homicide is on the rise in America, especially compared to other countries around the world with stricter gun laws. Is this true? According to the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Uniform Crime Report, as far back as 1992, the United States had a violent crime rate of 757.7 per 100,000 people, and a murder rate of 9.3 per 100,000. Jumping ahead to 2011, the latest reported crime period, the FBI reported a violent crime rate of 386.3 per 100,000 people, and a murder rate of 4.7 per 100,000. That's a 50% decrease in the violent crime rate in the United States compared to 1992, and a 54% decrease in the murder rate. That's a fact, not an opinion. Also notice how the violent crime rate and murder rate have both declined steadily almost every year since 1992. So if the violent crime rate and murder rate in America are actually on the decline, as the data clearly shows, then what is the political agenda behind President Obama's 23 executive orders for stricter gun control if the data proves otherwise?
Well, look, we are vigilant and constantly monitoring. And I think that the men and women in our intelligence agencies, as well as the FBI, have done a terrific job, and the Department of Homeland Security. The biggest concern we have right now is not the launching of a major terrorist operation, although that risk is always there. The risk that we're especially concerned of right now is the lone wolf terrorist, somebody with a single weapon. So we're spending a lot of time monitoring and gathering information.
So what I hear you saying is we don't have to worry about a spectacular 9/11 kind of event. More like a lone wolf could do some damage, right, kill a lot of people.
The most likely scenario that we have to guard against right now ends up being more of a lone wolf operation.
Commonly reported by the mainstream media is that the United States is far more dangerous than countries with stricter gun laws such as Great Britain. Even with the tragic shootings at Sandy Hook and Aurora, Colorado, this is also not true. According to the Home Office Statistical Bulletin, which provides comparable statistics to the FBI crime rates for England and Wales, in 2011, England and Wales had a violent crime rate of 762,000 violent crime offenses. With a total England-Wales population of 56 million, that is a ratio of 1,361 violent crimes per 100,000 people. This is 3.5 times the violent crime rate in the United States. Now, England and Wales does have a murder rate of 1.3, which is slightly lower than the United States, but the violent crime rate is 3.5 times that of the US. Again, this isn't exactly what you're hearing from the liberal mainstream media. This isn't rocket science. It appears that violent crime and murder rates are declining in America. They have been, according to the data, since 1992. And America, compared to other countries such as Great Britain with stricter gun control, has a lower violent crime rate. So what gives? Why are Obama and his representatives attacking Americans' right to self-defense and the Second Amendment under the guise that it will reduce gun-related violence and crime, when we just discovered that it does none of those things? As the data clearly shows, violent crime actually goes up after broader gun control. Why? One of the reasons violent crime increases with stricter gun control is that law-abiding citizens turn in their guns and obey the law, but criminals do not. Criminals keep their guns, and this leaves law-abiding citizens unarmed and virtually defenseless. A modern example of this phenomenon is the situation we have in Mexico, with powerful and well-armed drug cartels influencing corrupt government officials, while the Mexican citizens are disarmed and left completely defenseless. Stricter gun control actually leads to more corruption and empowers criminals. There is no check and balance because the average citizen is disarmed. It is one of the reasons parts of Mexico are some of the most violent and dangerous in the world. Knowing all of this, and after stating the obvious, if the president really cared about our children, then why would he be putting our children at risk by disarming them instead of protecting them? Did he not say in a recent speech that protecting the children in America is the country's #1 priority? Well, what exactly are President Barack Obama's motives? Could there perhaps be another reason for America's disarmament? A hidden political agenda behind the president's executive orders for stricter gun control? At present, all 50 states in the United States have signed petitions with the White House to peacefully secede from the Union. More than 125,000 people in Texas, for example, have already signed this petition. Nearly 700,000 people throughout all 50 states have signed secession petitions since President Barack Obama was re-elected to a second term. This is no joke, but a fact. States like Texas are in the process of seceding from the United States, and if things don't change in America soon, other states will surely follow. President Barack Obama's 23 executive orders for stricter gun control seem to only be adding more fuel to the fire. Are the people signing these petitions for secession part of a fringe group of tinfoil hat-wearing, right-wing religious lunatics, or do they know something that the vast majority of Americans don't? In Texas, for example, a prominent lawmaker has already threatened to arrest any American official who enforces, quote, King Obama gun laws. Republican Rep. Steve Toth has indicated that his Firearms Protection Act will make trying to enforce a federal gun ban in the state of Texas subject to a $50,000 fine and up to 5 years in prison. This is a very stiff penalty for simply enforcing the 23 executive orders President Barack Obama is enacting in order to protect our children. So why are these Americans, and more importantly states, reacting so aggressively to President Barack Obama's ordered gun control? Many Americans believe that the executive actions that President Barack Obama is taking has nothing to do with the tragic shootings at Sandy Hook, Connecticut, the Batman shooting in Aurora, Colorado, or the attempted assassination of Gabriel Giffords in Tucson, Arizona. In fact, many of these people believe that events like these are being used by the president as a scapegoat to enforce his political agenda. His intent, they argue, has always been to disarm the American people. Are they right? Does President Barack Obama expect a great civil war to erupt in the United States? Is that why he wants Americans' guns? To concentrate his power before war? Note that President Barack Obama has likened himself many times to Abraham Lincoln and views himself as a great uniter at a time of tremendous political division in the United States. Many Republicans feel that their party is no longer relevant in a political system that encourages the socialization of America and has made tens of millions of people dependent on the federal government for aid. Trillions of dollars in unfunded liabilities and Wall Street bailouts for the privileged few has only grown their disillusionment with the two-party system, special interest groups, and Washington at large. Many feel there is only one party now. The re-election of President Barack Obama, in effect, seems to have radicalized a growing group of die-hard conservatives and American constitutionalists. Why then would Obama want the great state of Texas armed, for example, when the president expects war? Even if you're on the left and agree with stricter gun control and think these secessionists are crazy, should you still not be concerned that a growing subset of patriotic Americans are planning for civil war in the not-too-distant future? If the majority of people in America truly want broader gun control, then it must be passed by a majority of representatives in Congress, not enforced dictatorially. Obama's political agenda for stricter gun control is no new news. These shootings were predictable, and now it appears Obama is scapegoating them to disarm the American people. Why? Will broader gun control end gun violence in America and the tragic shootings like the one in Sandy Hook for good? Or will it cause even more people to fear their government, and in effect radicalize even more Americans? Prior to World War II, one of the reasons the Japanese commander Yamamoto didn't plan a ground invasion alongside the attack on Pearl Harbor was that he feared the American people and knew they would fight for every inch of shoreline. Note that he didn't fear our military, which was weak at the time, but the people themselves, armed American citizens. Yamamoto reportedly feared an American behind every blade of grass. It's one of the reasons since the First Revolutionary War and Declaration of Independence and the War of 1812, we have never had a ground invasion in America. So why would President Barack Obama open the door to tyranny on American soil and put the American people at an increased risk of a future attack? Think of what America's enemies like China, North Korea, and Al-Qaeda must be thinking right now. Obama is readily disarming his citizens through executive order? Could this be a joke? Adolf Hitler rose to power at a time of extreme economic instability and political disillusionment. Remember, he became Führer over Germany during the fallout of the Great Depression in the 1930s, propelled by a stock market crash in the United States in 1929. How is this any different from President Barack Obama's rise to power after the collapse of global financial markets in 2008? Promise the people a little hope and change, and then deliver it. It appears that President Obama is chipping away at the Second Amendment piece by piece, executive order by executive order, Sandy Hook by Sandy Hook, a game of inches now turning into feet. What's next on his agenda? FEMA camps? Americans tend to forget that it was the 32nd President of the United States, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, that ordered by Executive Order 9066 tens of thousands of innocent Japanese Americans to internment camps during World War II. Well, what's stopping President Barack Obama from enacting similar executive power in the not-too-distant future? Will American patriots peacefully seceding from the Union be viewed by the President as political enemies, warranting detainment? Will he begin exercising his power under the NDAA? Many fear that Obama will start with the confiscation of high-powered rifles, semi-automatic and automatic weapons, and then continue chipping away at the Second Amendment piece by piece until it gets to the point where he's confiscated all guns, all weapons, and all means of self-defense. Will he stop with AK-47s and multiple rounds in a magazine, or move to ban all handguns and all shotguns and all guns in America? What drove psychopaths like Adam Lanza, James Holmes, and Jared Loughner to mass murder? Is this normal behavior for young men in their 20s? And what does this say about the deterioration of American society? Are these people insane all on their own? Or is there something else at play here? Whether or not the mainstream media wants to admit it or not, almost all of these stone-cold killers, Adam Lanza at Sandy Hook, James Holmes at Aurora, Colorado, and Jared Loughner in Tucson, Arizona, were mind-altered. is simply indisputable that most perpetrators of school shootings and similar mass murderers in our modern era were either on